Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
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 Our actions are our future. A zero hunger world by the year 2030, if possible. Yes, that was penned by the Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, the theme for 2018. Hello and welcome to the program, Agriculture on the Move. My name is Philip Sidney. Today, I have two gentlemen with me, and we are going to be discussing World Food Day. To my right is Mr. Barry Innocent, who is the Deputy Director for Agricultural Services in the Department of Agriculture. Next to him is my good friend, Reverend David Popo, who is the Roman Catholic Stewardship Office Director. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Wow, today I'm very happy because we're discussing food, of course. Because without food, we'll not be here, right?
Very true, very true.
Indeed.
But World Food Day, gentlemen, I want your perspective, Barry. In your own way, how do you view World Food Day?
For me, World Food Day is a very important time because, you know, the three basic necessities of life for any human being is food, clothing, and shelter.
Right.
You can survive without shelter for some time, you can survive without clothing for some time, but food, you cannot do without it for too long, otherwise you're actually going to die.
Right.
So it's a very important element that I'm happy that this type of forums that FAO have initiated is happening because it reminds people of the importance of food. Correct. And reminds all the various stakeholders from the farmers, the Ministry of Agriculture, to the restaurants, hotels, every stakeholder. It reminds them that, hey, you're dealing with a commodity that's very valuable, more valuable than gold, diamond, silver.
Correct.
Because you cannot survive without it.
Correct. David, what do you think?
Yeah, well, thank you, Sydney. For me, you know, every year you have this accentuation on food. To me, that's extremely important because, as Barry was saying, it's a fundamental dimension with implications for health, for growth, for development, and it's a cross-cutting dimension in every culture, in every society, and every economy. Food is at the center of human life. Definitely.
Yes.
And also as well, I think by having it as the World Food Day, it gives the opportunity for some measure of reflection by various persons, whether it's policymakers, governments, NGOs, individual households who are affected by food deprivation.
Correct.
So the other part of it is, but there are people as well who have food, and there are people who do not have food or even the access as a right to food.
Yes. Access of a right to food, that's very important. For me, in 1945, FAO they founded that, World Food Day, activity. I think it's just to remind us, hey, when you look at to alleviate hunger, global hunger, that's one for me. We're also looking at to alleviate rural poverty.
Yes.
Okay, and of course, our food security has to be, maintained.
Yes.
So let's look at the theme. Let us dissect the theme. It's our actions are our future. Okay, and like I said, is zero hunger world by the year 2030. That's if possible, right? But we have. FAO was saying, as we speak, there are over 900 plus thousands of persons who are suffering from chronic malnutrition.
Wow.
Right? Our diabetes, obesity is very, very, very high. So the impact of our actions, if it's negative, it impacts negatively.
Yeah.
Okay?
yes.
If it's positive, of course it's positive. So I'm saying, looking at the theme, what are your thoughts on the theme?
Well, I like the theme, and it's very strategic and very timely, because not only are we looking at the aspect of food availability, but you have to look at food availability, food affordability, food access, and you go deeper than that, you're looking at now food and nutrition.
Right.
Because even if you have food and you're eating a lot of junk food, or your diet is exceeding in starches and carbohydrates, but no protein, you're still not food secure.
Right.
If your diet is high in protein but no vitamins, you're still food insecure. If you have eaten food, but you're not drinking enough water, or as a consumer, as a citizen, if you're not drinking enough water you're supposed to, or if the means for you having water is not there, you're still a sense of food insecurity.
Right.
So all these things speak to food security, all these aspects need to be looked at. And I also want to mention, it's amazing that the rural communities are often, in most countries around the world, is the rural community that actually produces the food.
Right. And they're the most vulnerable.
Can you imagine that?
Imagine that.
They are not producing the food. And we have to look at, what can be done that them as food producers, what is there for them in terms of their storage capacity. There's freezing, there's pulping, a lot of things can be done. And what is there for them economically to ensure that they are able to generate some kind of income so that they can buy food if they want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the word action, I mean, seems to suggest that you refer to a timeline, 1945, the post-war period. We have had volumes of literature on the issue of equity, global equity.
Right.
Consumption. For us in the Caribbean, we have seen our development historians and economists talking about that the agricultural sector is important, notwithstanding that we have had the diversification strategies within our economies, but we need to ensure that we can feed ourselves as much as possible. The word action seems to nuance that a lot has been said by global campaigners on food and security.
Right.
We have had a plethora of policies, agricultural policies, but there has been an insufficiency of action.
Right.
You see?
Yes.
So that when, for example, we hear about the year 2030, zero hunger, that is a framework, an international framework. But as you implied, can we achieve it?
Exactly.
You see. So that I think attaining some level of tackling poverty from the perspective of food and the related economics, we need to ensure that policies are actually translated. Otherwise, I recall it when Pope Francis addressed sometime last year in Rome, the FAO, on World Food Day. And he made the observation that that if we continue to develop what they call a pitying, to pity the poor, those who are hungry, if we continue just to simply see about climate change and migration, for example, we see all these faces of people or refugees who do not have access to food because of geopolitics and those things.
Correct.
That when we pity or we feel just sorry on paper, what we are doing, we are creating what is called emergency aid.
Yes.
But it's not developmental,
Yes,
because of some of the structural issues that we have in terms of access to those basic and fundamental rights. So that for me, I think it really pushes us, both governments, the non-governmental sectors, the private sectors, to work in a very collaborative way to ensure that we can make a dent. I mean, Jamaica, for example, in the last quarter, we saw that in the attempt to expand production, they recorded, I think, something like 1.5 growth within the economy. But that was pushed by agriculture.
Yes.
You see? I think I think it was 2 years ago, I think, the minister...
Hold that point.
Yeah, sure.
We'll do first break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. We'll do for our first break. Stay tuned.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. All the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No, think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join revolution.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives, and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy, and consume organic. A message from Rise St. Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program, UNDP.
The good food revolution.
Welcome back to the program, and thank you for viewing. We're talking about World Food Day, which is celebrated on the 16th of October every year, worldwide. And today, of course, we are going into World Food Day, and there are many activities that we have planned. And of course, this is our first activity, our first discussion. I think it's very, very opportune to have those two gentlemen here with me. And Popo, you were talking about the Jamaican scenario.
Yeah, I was making the observation that I think for the last 2 development decades, we have seen concerted efforts by Caribbean governments, by CARICOM, to have a more articulated economic policy between agriculture and your other sectors, you know. But Jamaica, I think as part of its integrated rural development policy, you have recognized that you must expand the agricultural sector.
Yes.
You know, and I believe that from what I have understood, when Minister Ezekiel was Minister of Agriculture, or is
he is, yes,
I think he also made the point as well when he was referring to the I think it was the 2016 UN Development Report,
Right.
which also made the observation that we need to strengthen productivity in the agricultural sector,
Definitely,
you know, that kind of a thing.
definitely.
Then, of course, we have struggled within the region in terms of land use policies. Do we have a land use policy in St. Lucia?
Well, that was in Barry's.
Is it on paper?
It's something that's been worked on.
You know, and for many years, I mean, for many years, we have been hearing about land use planning and land use policies, you know. What do we zone off in terms of production, for agriculture, for commercial, for development, especially given the impact in terms of tourism development,
Right.
you know. So I think these are some of the internal issues that have to be addressed, both by the private sector and government sector, you know, so that we can ensure that, again, that food is not just a privilege, but it's a right
It's
of
a right.
individuals.
Yes.
It's an imperative.
Yes,
it's a moral imperative,
Yes,
you know.
definitely. So Barry, where does the ministry, in terms of the ministry's policy, its programs, how does that relate to what David is saying?
Well, first of all, the land use policy is something that's been worked on. There's a committee working on that as we speak today, and sometimes in the near future it should be brought into full implementation and has to be also justified and validated. But in addition to that, when you look at food security, the ministry is looking at there are different facets of that. You have to first look at the commercial food producers, which are the farmers, the fishers, and the food processors. And we facilitate them via different means. For the food producers, like for raw materials, like the farmers, as you might already know, you have the agricultural extension officers, the livestock extension officers going out there and providing the technical guidance to those food producers as to how best to produce food in terms of quantity and quality, and it's also including that the food safety aspects. And then you also have the marketing unit, which speaks to the food processors, which do sort of do the same thing, right? And then we also look into the normal householder, the normal consumer, and we encourage what is called backyard gardening, right? Or we encourage them, you know, in case you don't have the money to buy the food, you don't have to worry. There's other means of doing it, and we encourage them to go into having a little home gardening. the same flower pots like you have right in your studio, the same flower pots you usually put your nice rose and flowers. You can put tomatoes in if you want, sweet pepper, even cucumber, right? And you can grow what you want to eat. And in fact, it's sometimes even better to grow your own food when you can afford to do so, because at least you've seen what's placed in it, and it's sometimes more healthy.
Because you know what to use.
You know what to use. You know what to use. And the wholesomeness of the food also, because the more you grow food in terms of fruits and vegetables, and you eat fruits and vegetables, it speaks now to your nutritional health.
Right.
Right, because fruits and vegetables are very important. You have the component of the fiber in the fruits and vegetables, which helps with your bowel movement, it helps your colon movement, and then you also have the variety of vitamins and nutrients that you get in wholesome fruits and vegetables. And the Ministry of Health is also pushing a lot to encourage our people to help them move away from obesity, right, into proper health, because food security not just speaks to availability of affordability of food. Food security also speaks to nutrition, right? And whether you have too much of a high calorie intake for your type of lifestyle. If you're an office man, office woman, you're always in an office. If you cannot find time to go a little walking or jogging, it's encouraged to at least reduce on the carbohydrates and look at more protein and fiber in terms of fruits and vegetables. You know, likewise, if you're very active, then you need to increase on your calorie intake, right? And all these components are looked at. And we also now, what we encourage to do also is we try to facilitate the food producers. And there's a concession scenario, as you're aware of, where the government tries to provide concessions to the food producers like farmers, fishers, food processors, for the ease of doing business for them, so that they can better afford to produce food at a lower cost of production. All right, so these are some of the things we do. And in further to that, we have what is called the Youth Agricultural Enterprise Program, where we're trying to look at succession planning. You might know more than 80% of our farming populace is
over 60.
aged gentlemen and aged ladies, right? So we're now looking at succession planning, so that for food security again and food security planning, getting more youth involved in agriculture, and through the Youth Agriculture Enterprise Project, we have a number of youth coming in, where we try to support them in terms of having them the initial capital, helping them get access to land, you know, and giving them life coaching skills and also technical guidance to produce the food for the nation. But having said that, I think there is still a lot more that the ministry is trying to do, and we really want to encourage young people. I realize that most times when graduation ends for secondary school leavers and even A-level school leavers, most of them thinking of, gosh, I'm going to get a job, or I need to be employed. But I want to encourage those that could hear me that, you know, yes, you can get employed, but you can also be an employer. There's also the component of self-employment, which speaks to empowerment. You know, and I want to encourage the youth to not just, when you leave school, seek a job, but look into trying to have your own business. It's a possibility, and there are the Ministry of Commerce, from our collaborations with them, they are really trying to make this happen for the youth. So there's avenues, there's opportunities. There's so much mango being wasted during the mango season. All these mangoes could be collected by somebody. It's a business opportunity for someone to take these mangoes. You can do granola with that, where you dry it and become a dry granola. You can also pulp it, you can make juice. There's so many fruits going waste. You see mangoes, you see guavas.
Well, you can speak to that.
So I don't encourage the youth listening to me.
Because we take
the business opportunity.
Right, because we just finished a mango festival.
Exactly.
You know, one of the things we looked at, it's a GCCA project and OECS, the forestry at the implementing agent. And they, of course, it's a two-pronged approach. One, they looked at the mango tree, you know, as a soil conservation measure, you know, riverbank stabilization and you know, rural slope stabilization, especially looking at climate change and what the certain areas in which are very, very vulnerable, right? So they look at these as a 2-year project. So the mango tree, because of its deep-rooted root system, and it does not take too much water out, the moisture from the soil, like the blue maho, So they're using that. But then, if you plant so many mangoes, you'll have fruits. So then we have to look at the fruits now and say, hey, what you can do. So the Mango Festival was able to bring out from those agro processors to show St. Lucia what we can do with the fruit. And man, that was so
Yes,
great.
yes,
Just a few days gone there. It was really, really good. And that is the angle we are taking, you know, which I will speak to in a while about our World Food Day fair coming this year. But we are due for our break. When we come back, we'll talk about that. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
Oh, this one more break?
Family time is a healthy time, and a healthy family eats smart. Local fish and seafood from fishermen and farmers that you trust with your family's health is always fresh. Choose fresh seafood because it's packed with nutrients. St. Lucia's fish and seafood producers meet every government standard for health and safety, high quality, fresh local food products straight from the fisherman to you. Choose St. Lucian fish and seafood at your local grocers and choose a healthy lifestyle for your entire family.
I use fresh local fish right there from the fisheries department. Eat fresh, buy local.
St. Lucia's fishermen produce an abundance of fresh foods, highly nutritious and incredibly tasty. Together when it's most important. Healthy families. Buy fresh, eat fresh.
Welcome back again. Gentlemen, I know the government, hearing from Barry, the ministry is doing, you know, they have policies, there are programs in place to ensure our food security is well attended to. I'm wondering, I know there are other organizations that are involved in doing their part, but do you believe that enough has been done?
There are a lot of organizations out there working along the ministry to facilitate food security. I know, for example, that the Bishop McLaurin from Beverly Tabernacle Empowerment Center had this empowerment of folks to get into the food industry and to get employed, to get out of poverty. You bring them into the church, but you need to empower them. I know there's a life coaching thing going on there. I know there's the L-Care program that I think the International Men's Network did through Beverly Tabernacle Empowerment Center, where they provided a facility where people are given food, clothes, but in addition to that, there were agriculturists there showing them how to grow their own food, which is an empowerment tool, right? And I know that there are other organizations like Gaspar Henry and Feed the Poor. I mean, he's been doing that for a long time in the Boulevard. And whilst we want to encourage the private sector to support him as much as they can, right? And I don't know, I want to take too much. But
well, I know from the Catholic Church they have Caritas. So tell us a little more.
Well, Caritas is an international development agency of the Catholic Church. What we have been doing is, again, trying to empower, trying to strengthen. Because you see, part of the whole issue of food, both as a production within the economy, is that there is also a history in the Caribbean, and that is that a number of those very same young people will tell you, as all of us know, that the agricultural sector has signals that the parents worked in Vanna or at Marquis Estate, and they did not see the kind of remuneration. You know, although on the other hand, we will have farmers in the valley, and they would say that that money, that green gold, so to speak, is what sent the kids to. But we have a generational problem. So the thing is, how do we work with governments in solidarity to create that new mindset that agriculture is good, that you can become self-employed within agriculture and given the incentives by government. So I think there is an attitudinal mindset that needs to be deconstructed and reconstructed. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Mr. George Theophilus, I think there was some commission in terms of the productivity levels within the agricultural sector. And some of the findings were that people work there for a few hours, you know, and the whole concept of the soil and toil. So I think there is a cultural, there's a socio-cultural transformation that must take place, especially among the younger generation. Agribusiness.
Oh yes, that's
I mean, when Barbados was going through its stabilization process, they pushed that, backyard gardening. We did it as well. But the question is, how do we sustain those practices? And that's one of the challenges in terms of the SDGs. How do we sustain a lot of these policies and practices that we have had over the years so that we can get results. Because I think that we are if I can just provide a very slight critique, that we are doing the same thing
over and over again.
But we're not seeing actions resulting in transformation.
Yeah.
And for me, action means transformation. How do we transform the mind, the economy, the society, people, individuals, that kind of a thing.
Yes.
And I just want to say that, Pope Francis talks about, when he was addressing the FAO, that we really need an integrated solution, one based on solidarity. In other words, creating alliances. You remember that?
Yes.
Years ago, we had all this farmers association in St. Vincent during the days of bananas. Agricultural producers associations. Where have those things gone to? Some of them became politicized, and fell by the wayside. The whole aspect of fraternity, because you see, if you tell a young entrepreneur or somebody who is involved in fruit production that is only for profit, but that you don't see the whole broad context in terms of it is people's rights, that is your brother or your sister in a community who needs to be fed, who needs to feed his or her kids to send to school.
Correct.
So we need to make that strong nexus between food as a commodity, but also as well, it's a collective responsibility. And that is where I think the morality comes in terms of rural development and equity and those.
Well said. That takes me we spoke about empowerment. That's one of that came out of a discussion here today. Empowerment, and that's what we are doing this time around for World Food Day in St. Lucia. On the 14th of October, we are having an agricultural fair, a World Food Day fair. Right. Okay, and that's going to be held on the 14th of October at Fondor Park in Dennery. The whole idea is those persons that we have empowered, have worked with, to ensure that they are able to get the agro-processing sorted out. So they're able now to do it within their locale. Yes. So if within their locale they're able to be empowered, and then to use the raw material within their own local, like the Miku women in Angers, the rural women, they now have what they call a dark chocolate, a Miku chocolate. Right? Indigenous to Biku, right? Now it means therefore they are buying from the farmer, so money is being circulated, and then so what you're hoping to do is on that day bringing all the processors together, so St. Lucian can see what we are producing on that day, and that is very, very, very important.
And to also value.
Yes, the value to it.
Because you see, we have a history.
Well, time is against us. Time is against us. I just want to finish that point. Preceding that activity, we have a church service at La Rochus, again looking at World Food Day. So the theme will be tailored, for whatever homily that you have, that will be geared towards that. So it starts the day, okay, and then we go there for the launching of the World Food Day, and we spend the day there at Fondor. There'll be lots of things to see there. It's food. Yeah. So we look at everything produced locally there on that day. We're also hoping on the next day, the 15th. Let us feed the cabinet of ministers, because there's cabinet on a Monday. So we're hoping to get our local food cuisines for them on that day. So at least in the whole commemoration of World Food Day to do that, and of course the address by the minister on World Food Day, which is the 16th of October, the Wednesday. The Tuesday, sorry. So that is it in a nutshell. Gentlemen, we have come to the end. I don't think we can say anything more. I think we have said a lot. All right, we have exhausted the time. I would really want to thank you, Mr. Popo, for being here. Barry, thank you very, very much. I think that will be part one. Okay? Because a lot more to discuss. So I want to thank you again. You've been viewing Agriculture on the Move. Thank you for watching the program. Thank you again, NTN staff, for assisting us to ensuring that this program is broadcast. And remember, agriculture is our business, and eat fresh, St. Lucia's best. Thank you, and goodbye. Thank you very much.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the Move.
Agricole en mouvement.